www.andrewmartinmusic.com, another informal chat late night in the van. And this one is going to be filed under my Guy with an Opinion playlist. And it's called Why Now? And it's a secular take on what I would say upping the shenanigan ante. So why now? Well, the first thing I would say is that the political system is broken. It's broken in the sense now that it's very easy to subvert and manipulate. So this is the lame duck period within the U.S. Political cycle, and Israel has an election coming up this year with a lame duck dictator, and that's why now. That's the most surface level of why now. So millions of people will potentially be murdered because of political expediency of basically mafia dons who found their way into the political circus. Extraordinarily tragic that this is what has happened to the political spheres of influence. But it's a fact. I don't think anybody can argue this. That's why now. Now, of course, there's way more to it than that, and there's things that have happened shortly, recently, like, say, going into Venezuela. Well, we did that because we knew we were going to go into Iran, and we wanted to secure another source of oil. So that's the why of that, and the timing of everything. You see, you can, if you follow the dots, you can quite easily see the why of many things if you understand the way these mafia dons think about their rule. Now, the second one is probably the reason for Donald Trump surfacing up, to the top of to the pond, and that's called neoliberalism. And I have blogs on neoliberalism, and I concede that it's made 20% of people very, very wealthy, but it's left 80% of people extraordinarily diminished and living from paycheck to paycheck, massive amounts of homelessness. There's so many problems that neoliberalism has created, and this is the why of Donald Trump as far as this second aspect of why now, and I'll start to unpack that. So, first of all, the most basic core definition of neoliberalism is turning the markets into God. So it's economic idol worship. There's a hidden hand. The markets know best, and that will just solve everything. The second aspect of neoliberalism is that governments are corporation. They're there to make profit, and Trump exemplifies that. So these are the two primary factors of how neoliberalism operates, how it functions, its modus operandi. Now, unfortunately, I am going to have to touch a little bit on spirituality here. I wanted to keep it secular, but it's not really possible to do that. There is overlap. I'll keep it as secular as possible. But what happened was events mid-century in the 20th century led to those who cannot be named having a certain perspective about white people. And if you combine this with what I mentioned earlier about Kabbalah and how it views Christians as satanic, dupes of Satan, because Jesus is Satan, and you combine those two elements together, what we've seen is that along with neoliberalism came massive immigration into Western nations, and this is the reason why. So there's two primary reasons why, and juxtaposed to that was through economic interests of the international banking cartels and their corporatocracy. They outsource traditional ways of living, say in Canada, North America, manufacturing, and this basically devastated Western traditional culture over the last 70 years. And what happened also, and they knew this, they knew that, there might be arguments to say that they're dumb, they're so dumb that they didn't know this, but I wouldn't buy that argument, is that they made the Eastern Bloc incredibly rich and powerful by selling us out. And so this is really what Trump is about. This is the primary reason for Trump, because it's the end of neoliberalism. They realize what has happened. They realize what they did. And that they have to somehow make a correction, right? And the simplest way to make a correction of a terrible economic situation is war. And it always has been. What they created with China and this very powerful Eastern Bloc through outsourcing and selling out Western people, this is what Trump is addressing. Now, again, maybe they're dumb enough that they didn't know that they were going to create this economic giant in the East. I'm not buying that. You can if you want. But regardless, that powerful bloc now exists, the Eastern Bloc, created by the international cartels and the corporatocracy. And again, this is what Trump's role is. He's addressing the economic monster that has been created through neoliberal policy. And I think the last part of this, which I think is very important, and again, I want to keep it secular, but this ties into Kabbalistic ideology, and this has to do with a worldwide monetary system based on digital technology. So digital money, programmable money, tied into AI. So this is the final aspect of what is going on here. To implement that on a world scale, it's going to take a lot of shock and awe on a worldwide scale. How long it's going to take them, how fast that comes about, hard to gauge, but it's an extraordinarily important part of trying to figure out what's going on here. Is this reinvention of money by the cartels in an even worse way than the last 200 years of usurious Ponzi scheme fiat currency. So that's the final piece of the puzzle of what's going on here as far as all the major shenanigans that have surrounded us in this particular era. I have my own thoughts on that. I've talked about this AI and digital interface. To me, an all-knowing God, an all-loving God needs no such technology, but a flawed God does, right? Where have you been walking today, Adam? Because I don't know. So he didn't know where Adam was. So a God that doesn't, who cannot know everything within its being, would want computers to do the job for him, or it. And so this is the, in my opinion, the role of digital money, programmable money, a link to AI, and control, just control by the God of the earth, right? It's all about controlling it because it's not omnipotent and it's not all loving. And yeah, the AI component to it probably has to do with the reincarnation template, but I wanted to keep this and bypassing it, but I don't want to get into that here. Go to my website. This was generally meant to be a secular video. Correction of a terrible economic situation is war, and it always has been. So I would hazard a guess, not a prediction, that war in the next 10 years will be extraordinarily prevalent, because it's the compensation, the overcompensation to the end result of neoliberal economics. So they have to do something. I mean, if the horse is dead, you got to do something. So, the Western economic model was destroyed through neoliberalism as far as being able to sustain the populations in a reasonable way. So that's gone, that's over, and it's being replaced. And they chose Donald Trump to be the person. Could have been anybody, but he fit the bill. He was the right person at the right time for this job. And he's the replacement ideology for neoliberalism. And that's, my guess is, at least 10 years of unending warfare to replace what neoliberalism has become. So that's where we're at, in my opinion. This is a secular assessment of it. Fasten your seatbelts. If I was, going to say what should anybody do, get out into the country if you can, and create a little homestead for yourself. Try to become as self-reliant as possible. If you have the means to do that, and sort of dissociate yourself from the coming turmoil in the next 10 years, that I believe is inevitable, because the one thing that the international banking cartels and the corporatocracy are not interesting at all is to fix the damage they've done. They have no interest in fixing it. It's just going to be one shenanigan after the other shenanigan in an ocean of denial about what they've done to traditional Western culture, to white culture, to Christian culture. The Kabbalists have flipped Christianity and are using it exactly how they believe it is, satanic. They believe Christianity is satanic, and that's how they're using Christianity. They bought it, so they've inverted everything about Christianity, and that's based on their core ideology of Kabbalah, that Jesus is Samael, the devil. So yeah, get out and try to learn to be as self-sufficient. If you can afford a small piece of land. I'm out in the country now. What I would say to anybody, if you had the means, is to try and create small eco communities, and so you don't feel isolated doing it yourself. I mean, that's the way forward for for the for Western people is to try to find a way to reignite a new civilization on the most micro scale. That to me is the most pragmatic thing to do under a secular type of assessment of the situation here. Of course, there's people that just are just going to accept whatever comes along, and I sort of get that. I've been there. I was young once too, and I thought, okay, well, if this happens, what can I do? It's just going to be the way it is. But if you have any sense of being proactive and want to try and make things better for yourself, then this is what I would suggest to do, if it's possible for anybody to do it. So yeah, that's about all I want to say in this one. I'd like to say I'm hopeful, but I'm not. It is what it is. This is a nasty place. But again, that's my website. I have my whole website is dedicated to a spiritual view of life and trying to deconstruct all the shenanigans. But I'm also like, I truly value pragmatism, and I truly value secularism as long as it's not abused.